Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Today's topic is about creating a backyard oasis for birds in particular. But of course, everything will benefit from doing that as well. So, get this question a lot. A really common scenario is people come in and say, "Oh, put up a bluebird box and everything's right, pointed the right direction, everything. Why can't I get them? They won't go in there." And a lot of times when we pry deeper as to what the situation in their yard is they tend to have lawn services and they treat their lawns and with chemicals to kill bugs, which is what wild birds need to eat. So this is a common similar scene to a lot of urban areas that especially really nice ones, manicured lawns, maybe some trees, maybe not many trees, maybe smaller trees, but there's no understory. There's nothing there for most birds to eat. And whenever birds are feeding babies, they want to nest there. They have to have caterpillars, and it's just some statistics, of how many caterpillars it takes to feed a clutch of 4 to 6 chickadees. It's between 390 to 570 caterpillars a day to feed a hungry nest of babies. That's just one bird. That's one tiny little chickadee. And think of all the other birds that are out there. House wrens have been documented making 500 trips a day while foraging and grabbing one bug, two bugs, sometimes three bugs, and taking it back to feed their nestling. So they are nature's working men. And if you're using lawn chemicals, especially pesticides, spraying for, and I know mosquito control is a common thing now. It doesn't just target mosquitoes, folks. It's killing most of the insects in your yard whenever they spray. So first rule number one, if you want to create an oasis for birds, don't use chemicals on your lawn. Let the birds clean the bugs up for you out there, and they'll feed their babies. And then, of course, native plants, ornamental. They may shrubs and trees. They may look pretty and they bloom or in fall. They may have a pretty color or something, but they're dead zones for birds. They're dead zones for insects. Whereas native plants have many species of bugs lay their eggs on native plants that, of course, hatch into caterpillars and then finally pupate into moths or butterflies, all kinds of insects, beetles. So native plants host native insects, and the birds need them terribly. Definitely a way to spruce things up. And not to mention native berries in the fall, especially in the winter. Birds subsidize, even insect-eating birds subsidize on fruit, especially in fall and winter. They're a native source. Even poison ivy berry. Yes, I know that people, poison ivy, but those berries are great for wildlife. Cedar berries, dogwood berries, wild grapes, woodbine, all kinds of plants, trees, hackberry trees. Different trees produce little fruit, little berries for birds, and having those in your yard will go a long way into making your yard a bird paradise, so they can find places that they want to nest in. And if your yard is really wide open, and you have bird feeders, then the birds feel very threatened, and they feel exposed out in the open like that, and they have nowhere to go to quickly. And so, of course, we recommend brush piles. Building a brush pile in your yard close to your feeders will give those birds more confidence to come in, land in the brush pile, look around, make sure there's no predators out there, and zip over to your bird feeders or your bird baths. Being wide open like that is risky, and they know it, especially if you're a bright red bird or a bright yellow bird. Being too exposed can make your yard unacceptable to them. So you definitely make sure you have some underbrush. I would much prefer that you don't clear out all that underbrush. Leave some of those shrubs and wildflowers underneath at least part of your yard. I understand wanting a nice lawn, but if you've got to dedicate 10-20% of your yard and let it grow into a more natural state, and plant natives in there, and let the native trees grow that produce these berries for in the fall, the caterpillars most of the year. For the birds there, the birds will definitely remind you. And yes, whenever you have trees and you leave them, then you're leaving nesting spots for them. Don't cut down dead trees. Another huge piece of advice, if you can. I know if it's not safe and the dead trees or dead limbs are in danger of falling over and hurting people or falling onto your house, hitting your car, I understand needing to trim those back. But the longer you can leave up a tree that is dead or has dead knot holes in it, like this tree with the white-breasted nuthatch, the woodpeckers can excavate those kind of holes and build nests in them. Bluebirds use it. There's tons of cavity nesting birds out there, so they will utilize that. And of course, the insects attack that dead wood. Why do woodpeckers hammer on trees? Well, they're wanting to make loud noises to attract females, and excavate homes. But they're also drilling and probing with their tongue in there to get the insects that are eating the dead wood in the tree. So leaving at least some dead wood for them will definitely increase your yard's appeal to many, many birds. Now, if you watch me regularly, you know I'm Captain Water or General Water. I've been called many things because I so truly believe in water. It is the number one most important thing for birds. And whether you have a place to create an open little pool or pond, this is affectionately known as the frog pond by friends who built that, and it's got moving water or sprinkling water there the sound attracts birds, and it keeps the mosquitoes from being able to lay their eggs on the surface, which is a great thing. And there's all kind of native vegetation planted around the frog pond, and there's nest boxes. There's a couple of nest boxes there to help attract. So that is creating a bird oasis in a nutshell right there. So it's food, water, and with the native plants, a lot of natural woods. They've got escape cover vegetation for them to go into. But if you can't do that, regular bird baths or smaller bird baths are great as well. I mean, birds have to have water, and of course, unfrozen water is so important. Like I know that Kurt puts a floating pond de-icer in this so that the part of it stays open even in January, February, which is really, really important. Now, those trees that surround there, it provide natural nesting locations. This is a blue-gray gnatcatcher nesting in a cedar. The cedar is green all year long. It provides great escape cover. It provides berries in the fall and winter. And also, when it's thick like that, birds feel safe nesting in there. The predators have a harder time finding them, things like crows and black rat snakes, things like that to climb trees. So having some good thick native shrubs or native trees in your area will attract natural nesting going on there. And if you have bird houses, that's great. Just learn the rules of your birdhouses. I can put a link in the description below the video about cavity nesting birds and birdhouses you can put up with. Remember, not all birds nest in cavities. Not, that's like that blue-gray gnatcatcher in the previous slide. Most birds nest just in trees and shrubs, some are directly on the ground. But if you're going to put birdhouses, which is a good idea, you need to know how many in your space will safely accommodate. Birds won't, especially two bluebirds, won't nest really close together. But in your area, you may have tree swallows, chickadees, titmice, nuthatches, different birds that will nest in nest boxes, artificially made nest boxes. So check out the link below to learn more about nest boxes and what can. And then, of course, your local conservation department probably has a really good source on what birds nest in your yard and your area, and then what kind of boxes you can put up there. And I get asked a lot about nesting material. Now, in nesting material, yes, birds will gather up most of that on their own. But providing good, clean nesting material like this hummingbird is gathering to line her nest with helps birds along. Just remember, never use dryer lint. I get asked this every year. Dryer lint is full of dust, and it's also full of chemicals from especially dryer sheets and things like that. Do not use the dryer lamp. Toss it. It is not good nesting material. And the birds don't know that. So they will grab it and use it. And then it's a danger to their fledgling birds with sensitive respiratory systems. So yes, you can put up cotton, wool, string. There's different things. Although it's got to be clean. It's got to be natural. You don't want it to be dyed and things like that. So nesting material is something you can do. And then watch the joy happen. This eastern kingbird couldn't get that out, with insects, and the ones begging as cute as can be. But if you don't use chemicals in your lawns and your yard, and you let native vegetation grow, then you will be providing insects for your birds to nest and feed their babies on, and you'll get to enjoy it. So remember, let part of your yard go wild. At least you plant native plants, the flowering plants, and native trees that produce acorns. And oak trees are considered to be one of the best plants on the planet for birds because they produce tons of native caterpillars, and birds. Many birds can nest in one oak tree and feed on the bountiful and the caterpillar resource that they provide. So, food, water, and shelter. That's how you create a bird oasis in your backyard. And of course, bird feeders. Don't forget your bird feeders. That is, of course, what you can really do easily, but you have to put a little work in to your yard to make it much more of an inviting oasis for the birds. So, great idea for a program. And I really thank you for joining in today. Give us a like, give us a share, send in ideas for future programs. I'd love to talk about what you want me to talk about. If you're on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And don't forget to ring that bell, because that gives you notifications of when I'm going to be on next. Until next time, let's talk birds.